We are tonight's entertainment.
You can't handle the truth.
The fire rises.
Pizza time.
You're a wizard, Harry.
So it begins.
You know how much I sacrifice?
You think that's air you're breathing?
Groovy. I don't have friends. I got family.
We are Saxophone! 1, 2, 3, 4!
Craft Services.
So, Jordan,
Yeah?
what have you been eating?
It's actually funny that you ask this because before we were recording, I was like, I'm going to lie and say that I ate something different more recently so that I wouldn't say the same thing as Trent. But I will say, my boss, Colleen, her and her boyfriend made strawberry cheesecake, and she brought it into work, and she gave me a slice, and it was so good.
Wow,
So
that's
I had
pretty
strawberry
magical.
cheesecake. Homemade.
But beware, that's
Wow.
a lie.
But that's a lie, because
But it's nice that you prefaced it with that.
the most recent
Was
thing
any
I
part
ate
of that
is-
true, but it just wasn't recently? Or, like, the
It
whole thing
wasn't
was
the
made up?
most recent.
But if
It
you're
wasn't
willing
the
to
most
lie
recent.
about that, what else are you open to lying about?
Yeah, that's the real question.
My age?
Oh no.
Trent, this is going nowhere good.
Nowhere fast, no. Parth, what have you been eating?
I had, after dinner, I was feeling a little peckish, and so I had a granola bar.
What flavor?
Of what variety, yeah.
It was these Kirkland from Costco.
Yeah.
Granola bars with like chocolate chips and coconut, and it's actually quite good.
Was
I'm
it
a
one
fan.
of the ones where it was like dipped in chocolate?
No, it just has chocolate chips in it.
Nice. I've never heard
What,
of,
have
like,
you had?
Yeah, you know, like the Quaker granola bars, and they're like dipped
Where
in
like the
chocolate.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
butter is
yeah.
sort of like submerged.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, I had
Yeah,
like
those
the
are good.
entirety of it. being
Really?
simmered- Yeah.
Oh, so, I mean, like that's delicious, and I understand, but that's just a candy bar.
Wait, so what was the real thing that you guys
Trent,
ate?
why don't you go ahead?
I worked on set today, and there's always a lot of like food to be had at the end of the day, and especially when you're the one doing like the crafty shopping, you can sort of like pick what you want, and then because you know there's gonna be some left over, and then you can basically just like do a little bit of grocery shopping for yourself. And so, I mean that has nothing to do with anything, but there was leftovers from set, and it was, well, actually. Well, it was
so much.
yeah, it was several bags, but the what we put in our bodies, it was several trays of chips and salsa and guacamole, and I said that I was either gonna, I mean I don't know if this is vulgar, but my intention was, oh, I'm gonna take this and give it to a homeless person because I also had my own burrito leftovers, and I thought I really don't need this, and then I got to Jordan's house, and then friend of the show. Everything Everywhere All at Once episode guest Brandon Petty was like, you shouldn't give that to a homeless person, you should give it to me, and then I should take it and me and my friend should eat it in Seaside Heights,
Yeah.
which is also where they filmed Jersey
Jersey
Shore,
Shore,
or at
yeah.
least where it's based. And so thence, once the dam was broken, we all just started to eat the leftovers. And
you know what, Parth? It was so good.
Wow.
but if any
awesome.
homeless people are listening, we're sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that makes up for it. With that, I guess
Parth,
let's
when
just
was-
cue
when-
into the intro.
Parth, when was the last time you gave to a homeless person?
Welcome back to Craft Services, where we talk about how Parth hasn't given anything to homeless people and was trying to make Trent feel bad about it. No, but we
not
got
recently enough for you to remember when you last.
I
gave.
gave
No.
$5 to a homeless person like 2 days ago.
I once opened my wallet to give a single to a homeless person, and there was only a 20 in there, and I gave it to him.
Wow, good for you. But here at Craft Services, we talk about the movies. Each week we talk about a film and hopefully have a crew member of that film to talk with us about their experience working on the picture. This week, we're continuing our interview with Andrew S. Eisen, associate editor of The Hateful Eight. and he's worked on a few other things.
Oh, the other things such as Django Unchained, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and The Mandalorian, which is a television show, but forgive us.
Yeah, and he actually edited, not just associate edited.
Did he? Jordan, how was the interview?
The interview was really good. I don't really listen to craft services, but I listened to the entirety of this episode.
What were some of your favorite?
Well, that
questions
doesn't seem
we
true,
asked?
given that I'm the only one that has the files. And it's also interesting that you always mention how you don't listen to the episode. That does a lot for Trent and I's self-esteem. But I'm glad somehow you managed to listen to the whole episode.
My favorite question was, did you ever interact with Tarantino himself? Because, I don't know, I like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm a big fan of the guy, even though a lot of people have something bad to say about him. But I just wanted to know.
And I can't imagine why. If you guys can hear any extraneous noises, you should know that right now, friend off and
show.
of the show, Jackson, Clark, and Sarah Brotman are playing Fortnite quite loudly at Trent's.
Yes.
And I told Trent and Jordan that they needed to tell Sarah and Jackson that they had to be quiet. But if you can hear them, I'm sorry about that. Sarah and Jackson weren't playing Fortnite at like comically loud volumes while we were interviewing Andrew S. Eisen. And I feel like we should just play that interview.
Yeah, no, what do you think the transition is going to be? Is it going to be our standard, or is it going to be
I don't know. Last week I played some Hateful Eight. Have you listened to the episode yet, Trent?
I did just for the transition part. You know, I'm a sucker for a segue.
I know you are.
Wait,
Did you like it?
Parth,
Seems like, yeah, sure. I liked it.
can you cross-contaminate and play Son of a Loving Man from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? The transition?
That's
DJ
interesting.
Parth, is he taking requests?
I guess we'll just
Parth?
have to find out.
Because then people would be confused.
Yeah, well, right now I feel like I can hear for the edit in the future, and I can hear music playing, but I can't really decipher what it is. So future Parth and future Jordan. I don't know if that's what I'm hearing. I don't know if that's what Parth's hearing. Remember, Parth's editing this episode. Parth can cut you out anytime he wants.
I'm the sun, I'm the sun, son, I'm a son, son, I'm a son, I'm a son, I love you, I'm a son.
Alright, cue the interview. So you mentioned that you actually edited several scenes in this movie, and that kind of ties into a few questions we want to ask. As far as you can remember, this movie came out at this point 6 years ago. This December it'll be 7 years ago. I'm pretty sure. But so from memory, is there a scene or sequence that was particularly difficult to edit, or that you're most proud of? I mean, they can be the same, they can be different, but just anything difficult or that you're proud of, particularly that you got to work on.
So the scene that comes to mind the most would be the very long scene in the stagecoach that takes place from after when Walt Goggins shows up. You know, the sheriff, the supposed sheriff, shows up, and he eventually they agree to let him come inside the coach, and they get to Minnie's haberdashery. It's probably I don't know, a 20-minute scene in there or something, where they're just sitting and having this whole conversation about, the Civil War and all the stuff that was going on. And it's just 4 people in a stagecoach. And you basically, there was a 2-shot on one side of the stagecoach of John Ruth and Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, Daisy. And then there was
Daisy Domergue. Yeah.
Daisy Domergue. And then there was Walt Goggins and Sam Jackson on the other side, so that you had a 2-shot and a 2-shot, and then you had singles on each of them, and then there was a side angle 4-shot where it kind of looked at them from the side where you could see all 4 of them. That was all the coverage there was for the scene, but it was a very long scene, and to keep it interesting and to keep it engaging, it's believe it or not, it's hard when you have hours, I'm talking hours of footage, and multiple, performances and ways you can put that together. It takes a long time, which is one of the reasons why I think Fred handed it to me. He realized it was just going to take him so long to get through it all, even though it's basically a simple dialogue scene. I work on, action stuff too. I work, on the Star Wars stuff and the Marvel stuff, and you have these big action set pieces. Sometimes those are easier to do than a simple dialogue scene, where you really are trying to get into people's psyches and their heads and trying to convey a certain thing. Like we keep cutting to Daisy Domergue, memory serves. Every time we cut to her, she's got like a little smirk on her face, or she's chewing on her beef jerky or whatever that was that she was eating, and it's all kind of done in a way to sort of let us know that she's fucking with us a little bit, or she's fucking with them, and just every cut, every line, everything is intentional, and it comes together through a lot of trial and error and experimentation and trying it multiple different ways until it just starts to feel right. There's nothing, and of course along the way I would show it to Fred, I would show it to Quentin, get feedback, and then go on and hone it some more, which is basically the same process most editors go through with their with the directors or supervising editor, and Fred's was in that case. So it took a long time. It was challenging, but it was it was fun, and eventually it was done. And once it was committed to film, that was pretty much it. We the good thing about Quentin is he doesn't really change his mind a lot. He kind of knows what he wants, and he once he's happy with a scene, he kind of commits to it. There's not a lot. Like sometimes a lot of filmmakers, will just keep going around and around and around, maybe second guessing themselves, or just unsure and trying different things. Maybe not just because they want it, not because they're unsure, just because there are so many different options. When we used to edit more on film exclusively, there was less of that, just because you got to the cut. It wasn't like you could just hit undo 50 times, and once you made the splice on film, that was kind of it. And that in the case of the Hateful Eight and Django and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I didn't work on, but I did get the shirt.
Nice.
Yeah, that's Quentin, by the way.
I was looking at it before, and I was like, "Who's that?"
I was trying to figure out who it was,
and then I saw past the bolt cut, and
that's him.
For the listeners, our guest is wearing a shirt with Quentin Tarantino's face on it.
As a child,
that he's the age he was in 1969 when the movie takes place.
Very cool. You implied earlier, and like every editor we've talked to, talks about like how insane the hours are. And I was wondering, is it like worse or more during dailies, or after the wrap, or like after filming is wrapped? And we talked to someone who was like editing 2 projects at the same time, with George Miller and George Lucas, and they said that they were getting like 2 hours of sleep a night for like months. And I was wondering how insane the editing lifestyle really is.
Okay, that is not inaccurate, but whoever that person is, I don't know if you can share who it is, but if that is,
it was Mark Sexton, storyboard artist.
Storyboard artist. Okay,
sorry, but yes,
that makes more sense that they were able to do 2 jobs at the same time, because editing 2 movies at the same time, or 2 projects like of that caliber, it would be impossible. Even the storyboard artists, because I will sort of go on the side. When on the Lucasfilm stuff, on the Mandalorian stuff we do, and all the other offshoots that are all sort of happening now. You can read a Vanity Fair article that just came out this week that talks about some of those different projects that are happening, but they all start out the same way. They all start out with a script, obviously, and then we edit the full episode in storyboards, and then after that we edit the whole episode. We move over to previs and do the whole episode in previs, top to bottom, not just action scenes, but the entire episode, because working in this loop, I'm switching gears now from Hateful Eight to a whole different thing, but you work, they have to do it so that to prepare the volume which is that virtual set. They need to know where all the cameras are going to be and what the set's going to look like. So that's why they have to do an entire episode that way. So when we're editing, basically what ends up happening is in those situations, we're editing a storyboard pass, then a previs pass before shooting even begins, and then the actual episode. And then sometimes the previs is even finished. We're still editing previs while they're shooting. So we're kind of doing 3 versions of the same episode. It's a lot of work. It's a lot more work than, you might have it, they call this TV. It's anything but TV. It's not unheard of to at times, especially with deadlines looming, to only get a couple of hours of sleep a night. It is absolutely not unheard of. And I'm accused, especially by some of my colleagues, of doing it too much. As I told you guys, I'm very passionate about the work. I get lost in the time. I don't even realize how much time I'm putting in. But I want to really sell my cut, and in order to sell my cut, it's a lot of fine detail that goes in. It's not just slapping it together. It's really doing all the sound. Sometimes even doing visual effects, even within storyboards, to animate a storyboard, so it's just more dynamic. And those kind of things you can spend hours and hours and hours. And yeah, so the hours are crazy. And you asked whether it's crazier during dailies or after. I think definitely during dailies, you're just trying to keep up every single day. You want to, as much as you can, keep up with camera, because the second you fall behind, you really fall behind. And then you're just trying to chase, the film, and it gets more and more daunting. If you don't get through your 2, 3, 4 hours a day of dailies in one day, and then the next day a whole other batch of the same amount comes in, you're like, your head can explode. So you have to really learn how to work at a certain pace, and in order to get through it all. And in the case of these television shows, where sometimes you're editing 3 episodes and they're shooting all 3 at the same time, like most, The Mandalorian, it's not like, oh, they shoot an episode, then they shoot an episode, then they shoot an episode. They're basically shooting the entire thing like a movie, out of order, depending on whatever makes most sense for the ADs and the sets and this and that. So you might get, dailies from episode 1, 3, and 8 all in the same day, and you can't just focus on one. You have to, work on all of them. But it can be really crazy. And then when dailies finally stop, and that's a huge relief. You still, the next few weeks, you're still trying to catch up and getting that all sort of, getting a first cut finished and out the door. Once that's done, it's still a lot of work doing revisions and getting ready for screenings and things like that. But I find that getting through the dailies is the longest, hardest process generally.
There's 2 other versions of this movie that came out. There's the Roadshow, 3-hour version that was shown. Mm-hmm. And then there's also the 4-part Netflix version. And I was wondering if you had anything, if you were a part of that.
Or if that was in conversation, during the original edit.
So the Roadshow version and the we called I think we called it the Cineplex version and the Roadshow version. Those were done concurrently. Those were done that was for the actual release of the movie. Because the Roadshow version was the one where it was actually screening in select theaters on 70 millimeter on film. And for that, we, just because of the actual limitations of film, you can't just have a 3-hour movie, especially on 70 millimeter, which is bigger than 35. I don't know if you guys have ever been upstairs inside a theater, like a Cineplex theater, and you see all the giant platters that run back when they were still film.
We both used to work at.
I've never been in a
theaters,
film theater,
but in the digital age.
So back, just even while they were still digital, even when digital was just coming up, they were still doing film screenings. And if you go to Quentin's offices or whatever, or theater, you go upstairs and you'd see that everything's on these big giant platters or just single projectors that there's a projectionist who just, as one reel finishes, he turns one off and starts the other one. And there's a real art to that too. But basically there were the limitations of being able to show 3 hours at one time. You couldn't do, so that's why they had the Roadshow version had an intermission in it. And that was I'm trying to remember, I think we had in the Roadshow version, maybe a couple of extra scenes that weren't in the Cineplex version, so it was a slightly longer version in addition to the intermission. And then the Cineplex version was meant for the digital release, and it was just a little bit shorter. And we put extra stuff that into the roadshow version just as a bonus, I think, just to make people feel like, oh, they're getting a different experience besides the intermission and the 70, but also feel like it probably costs more to see that too. So it's kind of like, we're going to give you a little bit more content here. And then when a couple of years later, as Fred and I were working on Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Quentin said, hey, we want to do or Netflix wants the Hateful Eight, and they want us to do it like as a 4-part series. So we're going to take the show, we're going to take the movie, we're going to break it up, we're going to take some of the stuff that never made it into the movie, put it back in, and do a little bit of restructuring and basically kind of make it kind of like a mini series in a way, or just sort of more four more bite-sized chunks that are easier to watch than a whole 3-hour movie. So that was the idea behind that. And I'm sure I don't know that was necessarily an idea of Quentin's per se, or if it's just another way of packaging a movie and selling more subscriptions by having a different version of it. I can't really speak to for sure, but we spent, so in summer of 2018, we spent the summer basically getting all the daily, bringing back all the old drives, everything, getting the negative all pulled from the lab, and restarting the whole process. In this case, it was just me, Fred, and Quentin. We didn't have our whole crew with us. We just did it, using all the Avid media. We didn't, weren't trying to conform the film. That was the lab did that on negative. But yeah, it was fun. We just sort of spent the summer doing that, and we did another thing as well on the side with Quentin at the time that I don't think is public knowledge. So it's basically I can really speak about it right now. But there's other little side projects we've done with him as well. Sure.
Are the chapter titles, like, is that all taken out? And
no,
that's how it's restructured, or
they're not called chapters. I think we changed the word chapter to episode, and I think if I recall, we might have even changed what the names of the chapters were. And so at the beginning of every episode now, it just says episode 1.
The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I can't remember. I don't remember what they were.
It was like Last Stop at Red Rock was
right
in the movie when I watched it.
Right. So I think chapter 1 at the beginning, the movie starts out the same way. So I think it was the same opening title, the same chapter card, only we changed chapter to episode. And then episode 2 was like Daisy Domergue's Secret or something like that. And then but yeah, it was fun to sort of 3 years later, after doing a few movies in between, to revisit it again and, just sort of, oh yeah, there was that stuff. We forgot all about that scene that never made it into the movie.
I would imagine besides, like when working on Nolan stuff or Tarantino stuff, like you're editing like on digital, and as those because you obviously worked like before and now. And so, like, as those inventions were, like, coming of age, were you like, this is going to make our life easier, or are you like, fuck this new shit,
Oh, I was fully on board with it. I having worked on film is very physically taxing, and that's what I grew up on, and that's what I fell in love with. But the idea that you could all of a sudden, just like, use a joystick or a mouse and be able to like, get through all this footage and
cut and drag.
Back and yeah, exactly, like lift, cut, drag, all this other stuff, and undo an edit and then have it all back again, or put a title on something even. Like that was one of the first big selling points of the Abbey's, put a title on a shot over a shot. Like on film, that like you couldn't just put a title on a shot. You would send if you needed a title over something, you would never do it as a temp thing, like it was just as a description temporarily. You couldn't do that at all. But if you wanted an actual title, like a chapter card, for instance, you had to, you wrote it up. You hired a designer who was going to, who made did the artwork. Then you sent the film off to the lab with the timings, marked with a grease pencil on the film where you wanted it to come in and out. And a week later, you get it back and you get to see it. So if you realize they made a mistake, the thing is off center, you have to send it back again, wait another week. Now, so all of a sudden you could just do titles, you could do color correction, you had all these tracks. I think we had 8. When Avid first started, we had 8 audio tracks. That was a big deal. On film, we basically had 3 mag tracks. One was dialogue generally, one was effects, and one was music. Now, sometimes you could carry more, but it got more and more complicated and harder to run on a chem or a Steam Deck. So, the digital world it made life a lot easier, or so we all thought, until we realized that now there were millions of ways to cut a scene. There always were, but you never dared. You basically committed back, in the few days. You made a commitment and that was it. And maybe, you undid and you made changes, but not to the extent that we do now. And so, and not just that, but editors now, we're everything. I mean, I'm animating, I'm doing visual effects, I'm doing music, sound, and basically I'm looking at a timeline right now, the project I'm working on, and it's insane, 24 video tracks, and it's nuts. It's a double-edged sword in a way. It's like people ask me, I've done a few of these other podcasts, or not podcasts necessarily, but spoken to students at different universities, and they'll often ask, like, what's it like working at home versus working at an office? And, what do you prefer? I love working from home because I have the flexibility to work the hours I want, and I don't have to drive. In the case of The Mandalorian, the studio is very far away from where I live. So and in Los Angeles, even a 5-mile drive can take you, half an hour. So this is significantly further. And so a lot of my day was spent in the car, and just, you're exhausted and you want to keep working, but you can't. You got to basically get home and got to sleep. Now I'm just home. Now, now I can work any hour I want. If I need to go to the dentist, in the morning, I can go to the dentist, come back, want to work till midnight, work till 2 in the morning. I can work till 2 in the morning. If I want to get up at 10, unless I have, meetings or reviews, the time is much more flexible. So I enjoy it, and I'm still communicating with my directors just like this. It's, kind of face to face. We probably look at each other more in the eye this way than we do sitting in a room together. But at the same time, you do lose that camaraderie of an office, and being able to walk into your colleagues' rooms, or having your assistant come in the room and talk to you, and you talk to your assistant. There's definitely something, the human factor is definitely lost now. So just like digital and analog, it's the same thing. It's a double-edged sword. It has its, positives and its drawbacks.
So you've mentioned a few times now that you've worked on The Mandalorian, and on those projects, Trent and I like Star Wars. That's pretty cool. Just like wondering how you got involved with that, and what that's been like.
It's been amazing. As you might expect, the filmmakers involved, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, Robert Rodriguez, Taika Waititi, Bryce Dallas Howard, Rick Famuyiwa. There's so many amazing filmmakers that are involved with this project. It's like speed dating with the best of the best. There's really cool filmmakers, for one. 2, it's Star Wars. And 3, the icing on the cake is that The Mandalorian turned out to be a huge hit, which nobody at the time really knew. I was just finishing a movie called Brightburn at the time. I don't know. Kind of like
it's produced by James Gunn, written by his brothers, right?
Correct. Brother and cousin.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So that was and directed by a great guy named David Arabesky, and produced by another producer named Simon Hatt, are all great guys. And anyway, as that was coming to an end, just I'm just thinking, okay, what's around the corner? I get a phone call from my agent, and she says, "Hey, I just got this phone call from Lucasfilm, and they asked about you, and it's to do this. Keep in mind, I have almost exclusively worked in features my entire career, and now I'm getting this phone call. It's for a streaming series for Star Wars, and would I be interested? It's it's a show called The Mandalorian. Meant nothing to me, but it's Jon Favreau. Dave Filoni, was not familiar with in that particular phone call. I learned who he was subsequently, but so I was like, oh boy, it's like Favreau, yeah, for sure, but it's streaming, it's television. Is that an area I want to go into? Is that a good move for me? All these things. And she said, well, look, just go meet with them because they really want to meet you and just see how it goes. So I go, and I'm kind of somewhat upfront that I'm not a Star Wars nerd. I have seen all the Star Wars movies, but I'm certainly not an expert. I didn't really know who Boba Fett was, or what, or the allure of Boba Fett, for instance. Yes, he was a side character, bounty hunter, who basically barely appears in the movies, yet he's got such a following. That was not me, at all. But they didn't seem to mind that at all. They were very interested in my, the feature experience that I had. They wanted to shoot it like a feature. They wanted people with feature experience. This was not going to be like TV, and the fact that I had worked on some westerns really excited them as well, because this was going to be like a space western. And and I just think in general my resume and the people I had worked with was, I'm sure, attractive to them as well, as much as I was attracted to them. So I instantly got excited about it, and within a few days I got a phone call saying that yes, you're gonna have to get the job, and I haven't looked back since. That was fall of 2018. We spent a year making the show. I came on just as shooting was beginning, so there was already another editor named Jeff Siebenek had already been on in the months prior, doing all the the previs versions of the show, and he was all by himself. And then I came on because there was no way one editor was going to do this entire series by himself. And then eventually we even hired a third editor because it was even too much for even just two editors. As shooting continued, we realized it was just going to be too much for all of us. So, but it was amazing, and we did it. We all felt it was really special. We obviously, knew about Baby Yoda, but no one else in the world knew about Baby Yoda, and only a few Disney execs ever got to see. We never, normally on a movie, we're so used to testing our movies with an audience. You bring an audience in, you get feedback. None of that happened on this. I think I saw maybe 3 Disney executives come to the editing room, Kathleen Kennedy and some other, people who got to see the episodes as they were progressing. But it was hard to tell especially in the early days before a lot of the visual effects were coming together. It's like, is this thing going to work? Like you can second guess yourself because you just don't know. I've worked on projects that I thought were going to be giant, summer tentpole movies that fizzled and died, and then other movies, like for instance, like The Imitation Game, small indie movie that turned into quite a popular movie and got nominated for a lot of awards and just got noticed for whatever reason. It's hard to really know what the zeitgeist is going to be at any given moment. And so I even remember the day of the premiere before it actually, it went on air. And we were the first show that actually started Disney Plus. Mandalorian literally started the platform. Favreau saying, God, I wonder how people are going to, I wonder what the reaction is going to be to Baby Yoda. Like, they're either going to love him or we're going to get dinged hard for it. Kind of like, it could have been a Jar Jar Binks type thing. It could have been.
No, Star Wars fans are nothing if not opinionated.
They're brutal.
They're volatile, like good and bad.
Yeah. So I think, partly the cuteness of him and all that, obviously Star Wars fans glommed on, and I think, you watch the end of the first episode and you see the little, the finger come up in the face, and like people like, isn't it? It's like, I don't know what what your feelings were when you first saw it, if you even seen the show, I don't know. But, even non-fans just found this thing to be so cute that I think people just started to watch it because Baby Yoda, Baby Yoda, Baby Yoda, Baby Yoda.
I read something that said that Baby Yoda's face was like the perfect geometry with what the human brain associates as like cute, and like that's like why there's such like a visceral response to Baby Yoda. It's like the ratios are perfect,
I stopped myself from watching the show solely because I was like, I don't give a fuck about Baby Yoda. Fuck that dude.
Right.
But then I watched the show and my biological instincts got the better of me,
Yeah.
Right. Well, there's more of it. There's more of it coming.
I only watched season 1, and obviously there was season 2. And this kind of leads into our next question, of like, what are you working on now? But also, like, I don't keep that up to date. Is there going to be a season 3? And like, I know Book of Boba Fett's a whole separate incident.
Right. Book of Boba Fett, people, we all sort of considered it season 3 at first. We all felt, and then it sort of became like, oh, it's season 2.5. But yeah, season 3 has definitely been announced. It's public knowledge that there is a season 3 happening, and
will you be involved?
I am very much involved in the Lucasfilm family, and so the continuing story without being very specific.
Is there any other feature or you're at liberty to say that you're working on currently, or anything you?
I'm not. I'm with. I'm still with the same project, but like as I just said, there's for you guys, or for even for your audience, there's a Vanity Fair article that just came out this week that basically, it's a sanctioned article with really great photos from Annie Leibovitz and everything, and but basically Kathy Kennedy explains a lot about what's going on right now in the Star Wars universe, including what's in the future. So that's a good resource to go to. As you said, Disney and Lucasfilm are very, very particular about what we talk about and what we say, and so I don't want to in any way betray or we have NDAs that are quite powerful.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want to ruin your career.
Have to stay vague in terms of anything that is not yet
public knowledge
announced or.
Well, Parth, would you say it's time for the Big Kahuna final question?
I think it is. I think it's time we break it out. So try not to be too scared, but the Big Kahuna final question is just, what's the last great movie you watched? Yeah, this is the one everyone hates to hear because it forces them to remember.
And because
really, it's great. Here's a really honest answer. I don't watch anything anymore. I have very little time to watch anything, and my colleagues, we have a chain at work. I will get to your answer, but we have a chain called What You're Watching with everybody from all the various Lucasfilm projects. We all are all sort of on it, and we all every morning it's like, oh, I watched this last night. I watched this last night. I just watched the new Chip and Dale movie, or I watched, I don't know, Better Call Saul, whatever it is. And everyone's talking about all the stuff they're watching. And I'm sitting there going, how do people have the time when I'm sleeping for 2 hours a night every night? Like, I don't know how that, but somehow, people do. So funny enough, last night, both of my kids were out. My wife and I sat down and we turned on Netflix. And there was Top Gun. I said, I don't think I've seen Top Gun since it came out. So let's just watch Top Gun. So it's a fun movie. It's not I don't think it's a great movie. I mean obviously the action sequences are amazing, and there's great tension and all that. There's a lot of there's also stuff somewhat dated, but it was a very fun watch. It's a very entertaining movie that I really enjoyed. It just keeps, it's very well put together. And then my wife's like, I'm going to bed, and I have to stay up because I have to go pick up my kids later on the teenage girls who, don't drive yet. So, 1 a.m, I have to go get them from their friends' houses. So I still had time, and I started flipping through Netflix some more, and like Dirty Harry. I don't think I've even seen all of Dirty Harry. So I sat and watched Dirty Harry, and that was actually that I really enjoyed. It's from 1971, and it just brought back that feeling for me of the movies I saw as a kid. It definitely was not made in the digital era. It had all the imperfections of film. It had all the classic lines. It had it had the Clint Eastwood doing all his classic stuff, some really cool action sequences.
He has a 44 Magnum. It'll blow your head clean off.
Right, blow your head clean off. So I wouldn't necessarily go and say that that's also a great movie.
Well, let me just say I'm a huge Tom Cruise fan, and I'm very excited for the second one. So I will.
Yeah, Top Gun Maverick
gladly...
comes out in like 2 days.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm excited too, and it may not be the most popular thing in the world to say, but I also am a very big Tom Cruise fan. I think he's great in everything he's in.
This is very validating to me.
He's intense. He's committed, and he sells it to me. I don't care, what his personal life is or what people think of him or jumping on Oprah's couch or any of those things that made him whatever. But just in his movies, he's just always good. Like there are certain movies I kind of don't of his that I didn't particularly like, but I'm thinking all the way back to The Outsiders. Like I think the first time I ever saw him, and that was a book I had read as a kid, and I thought this guy's going somewhere. And then Risky Business. He was great.
I just showed my girlfriend Risky Business, and by the end of that movie, we were like, wow, Tom Cruise is a movie star. By the end of this movie, it's insane.
Yeah. And all every single one of the Mission Impossible movies, the movies are as intense as he is, and they all work. And they're exciting. I really enjoy watching him. I'll go see any Tom Cruise movie. So there you go. If that's validating and that makes your day, then
every guest we have on, a lot of time they'll have somehow been on the set of Mission Impossible 2, and Parth's like, so have you met Tom Cruise? Like, I understand if you haven't. And then they're like, believe it or not, I had a very intense experience. Like, Tom Cruise shook my hand on the first day, and then something wacky happened with him 5 days later. Everyone who works with them, has anecdotes to share.
That's very funny. Well, I don't have any anecdotes to share other than he's vertically challenged. From what most of us
we've heard. Short King.
And,
yeah.
And he... So I had just been reading. I guess one of the reasons I gravitated toward watching Top Gun last night when I saw it is because I had just finished reading an article about him and Kelly McGillis and the casting of the movie, and how she, the executives, she had come off Witness and she was very popular and all that, but she just looked like she was way too old for him to be his love interest, and so they wrote into the script that she was older, and they sort of changed it a little bit, but she's like 5'11" and he's like 5'7" or something, a big height difference. And so they talked about how they had him on platforms, on apple boxes, platform shoes, and how she would also in almost every scene slouch or sit down or lean in, anything to make their height difference. And it's really interesting to see that after having read that article. Watch it.
Wow. I can't say how happy I am that the conversation went down this avenue, but I think it's a good way to close out the show. Trent, your thoughts?
Tom Cruise pro, this interview, great. Let's wrap it up.
Thank you so much to our guest Andrew Eisen. He's worked on so many cool movies like Django Unchained, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, The Mandalorian, and our film for today, The Hateful Eight. Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolute pleasure. Let's do it again.
Welcome back. This has been an interview with Andrew Eisen, who worked on projects such as Django Unchained and our interview for this week, The Hateful Eight.
Yeah,
Great.
Jordan,
Yeah.
it's amazing how you had that information all on hand, just off the top of
In
your
her
head.
brain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Parth, I just think that you're extremely sensible and organized.
Wow. She's really trying to butter me up. Interesting.
I think she's trying to get a permanent spot on the show since I think it's my spot is a revolving door. I know after 100 episodes you wouldn't hesitate to kick me off.
It's crazy how much hostility you guys edit out of the show.
Who says anything about that we edited out of the show?
Wait, when has it ever been edited out? It's generally, I would say, like, our most hostile moments have been on air.
I think that's like the point. What else are we doing this for? We just need a record for when one of us kills the other one, and then we can know, and then there can be a lot of proof.
Yeah.
There's like equal likelihood of both.
I think Parth would murder you.
Why do you think
Parth-
that?
Let's just hold on that.
Because
Yeah, she's trying to think of a reason, and there isn't a good one.
I'm sorry.
Is the
I'll just
alternative
hear
me?
him out.
No, you should be, but thank you.
Well, I'm sorry, Parth. Like, how would you want this to work out?
I feel like I'm more likely to kill someone, but you're more likely to kill me than I am to kill you.
But, like, why?
Really?
You're not giving me
Why do you
reasons
need to
here.
say that?
Because you get frustrated with me, and I feel like at a certain point you're gonna break, and you're gonna snap, and you're gonna.
All it takes,
How do you think I'll do it?
Almost
all
like
it
you
takes
said
is one
strangulation.
bad day.
Joker. Parth, I know it's the end of the episode. Can you do some Joker?
Well, give me something to say. I don't want to just do, like...
How about I chop you up and feed you to your pooches?
You're a freak. You're a freak. How about I chop you up and feed you to your pooches, huh? And then we'll see how loyal a hungry dog really is. It's not about the money. It's about the message. Everything burns.
Do you have any requests? You can do Spider-Man 2 also.
You can?
I can do, like, lines from Spider-Man 2, if you have any, like...
From Spider-Man 2. Nothing in
Whoa,
specific.
come on.
Like
my
the
favorite line.
beginning of the movie.
Um,
Or favorite line works too. I just want the voice.
I mean, pizza time. Pizza time is pretty. You're late. I'm not paying for those. You like that?
Can you do the one where he loses? And well, no, he doesn't lose, but like he gets a meager amount of money after winning the tournament. I think this is the first one though.
Yeah,
What?
Spider-Man 1.
Oh,
Yeah.
She's saying after he lets the
I
guy
got you for
go.
3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime.
Bonesaw is ready.
Bonesaw is ready.
Parth, did you notice that in my opening there's Bonesaw is ready?
Yes. No. Come on. I'm not a monster.
Okay, nice. I want to add more. There's also the regular show, but like I want to make it even more chaotic than it currently is.
Oh. What I wanted to bring up, after our discussion next week, we're fully into Jaws mode, aren't we?
After our discussion next week, we're fully into Jaws summer, even though
Shark Week in full swing.
Yeah, wait, is Shark Week approaching? Is Shark Week now?
Shark Week isn't it like a month now?
Shark Week is a month now?
No, it's a month. It's no longer.
They should call it Shark Month.
Well, I mean, it's always been Shark Week.
But like it's hot and there are like locusts flying everywhere, so we should talk about.
Wow,
Jaws.
that's big Jurassic World Dominion vibes. But what I was gonna say is for a Jaws miniseries, should I like concoct a little like music thing featuring like lines from the movie?
Whoa, like a new intro for Jaws Summer since we have like a
Just for
crazy
Jaws
miniseries?
Summer, just for the miniseries.
Jordan,
Like,
what
it
are
wouldn't
your-
overtake
what are your
everything.
2 cents?
I think that you should do the Jaws intro and the dun 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 dun, and then like all the build up, and then it's just you two talking. Does that make sense?
Parth. Kind of like that.
Parth. And then it's like
Well, that's just Mission Impossible.
Parth.
Trent. Guys, we've gone insane.
Craft Services.
Is anyone listening anymore?
Our show.
Do you think?
A podcast? No. If anyone's listening to this, let us know some way. Contact us somehow and say that you listened to the very end of this episode.
I just thought the entire thing would just be edited out.
You think this is going to be edited out?
Yeah.
Jordan, of all the things, this is being kept in.
Okay, what's the code word? The code word is
purple.
And
of
say
what? That like
say
that's
that
gonna
we'll
get
give them
cut
a
out,
free.
or?
Okay, but if you you can comment on our Instagram or DM us or Twitter. But
or post on your Instagram story, and you'll get 50 cents if you post on your story. Who knows?
And if you're in a reasonable distance, we'll give you I'll give you a DVD or something more exciting because you deserve a reward for listening to the end of the episode. Code word purple. Hi, can it be purple nurple?
Code word purple.
Wait. Code word Parth's purple nurple.
No,
and if you say code word Parth's purple nurple, we will give you a big.
That's getting
gift.
cut out.
Code word
so
Parth's
Jordan.
purple nurple.
No, like you can say that
All
how
caps.
much you want. So, Jordan.
All caps.
Yeah.
If people want to find us on social media, is that a thing we have? And if people want to listen to us, like where are we even? Because I have no clue.
So this is an interesting question, so I'm going to give you a good answer. So you can find Craft Services on Instagram or Twitter at Craft Services. And
well, that's
you can
incorrect.
Okay. Craft Services? No.
Just don't. Just roll on by. Where can you find us to listen to?
Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Yeah.
Is that it?
No, really, wherever you get your podcasts.
Or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, if you listen on Amazon Music or Stitcher. Well, it's just Craft Services. You just search up the name.
Craft Services. Look it up.
Well, there's no at in podcasts.
And so you can
Craft Services.
give us 5 stars on whatever you want to do.
Yeah, and give us a good review on Apple Podcasts or wherever they allow you to do podcasts.
Kids are doing that.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've taken enough time from the people.
Code word Parth's purple nurple.